Welcome to another edition of Pants Optional. It's Popcorn HQ's Zoom interview feature where we chat with comic book creators about their projects and get the lowdown, but from the waist up. I'm JBennett, Chief Editor at Popcorn HQ. Today, I'm joined by Jarrett J. Krosoczka. He's the author of the National Book Award finalist Hey Kiddo and the New York Times best-selling Star Wars Jedi Academy, A New Class, as well as Punk Farm and Punk Farm on Tour. He's also the creator of The Lunch Lady, a two-time winner of the Children's Choice Book Awards, a fun and colorful graphic novel series. You got to see it. It's just so vibrant and just out there. It's great. About a lunch lady serving justice and lunch, of course. So please welcome my guest, JJK. Welcome.
Jason, I'm impressed with the correct pronunciation of my last name. That was flawless, and we didn't talk about it before we started recording.
Because and that ran through my head pre-interview. I was thinking, should I just ask him? And I'm like, no, you know what? I would have asked you if it were a last resort.
Yeah,
but the first thing I do, I've learned with interviewing people, either before I go to a convention or on Zoom or anything, I go right to YouTube and enter their name to see if they've been interviewed anywhere else, because a lot of times, a lot of interviewers will have the person introduce yourself. Oh, yeah. So now I'm going to hear you say, you pronounce your name, which I did. I think it was like a TED Talk or something that you had.
Did a great job, man. I'm impressed.
Performance. So I was like, okay, got it down. So avoid all that. But so hey, The Lunch Lady had me singing some Adam Sandler a little bit earlier when I was reading through it, just for fun. Your first four graphic novels are being reissued into the first helping and the second helping, the former debuting this Tuesday, February 22nd in bookstores.
Yes.
Why is this the perfect time for readers of all ages to discover Lunch Lady, and what can they expect from this Tuesday in this world that, for those unfamiliar with your books and now have the opportunity to go out and pick it up this week?
Yeah, sure thing. So the Lunch Lady books were initially published in 2009. And to give historical context of how long ago it was that I initially pitched my publisher, like when I put together the pitch and sent it off to my publisher, because I was publishing picture books for several years. Mm-hmm. And I wrote about it on my MySpace blog. So I went to my MySpace blog to tell my small circle of top 8 friends that I have this idea for a comic, a graphic novel, and I sent it to my publisher, but they'd never published a graphic novel before. And so my publisher had that pitch for like a year because they weren't quite sure. The trade publishers, like, they have a business plan for how to put out a picture book or chapter book or a graphic novel. And a year later they picked it up, but they didn't want to print the books in full color, and none of the major children's publishers were publishing things in full color back then, because there was a risk. They didn't know if the books would fare well, and it's expensive to print a book in full color. Sure. So from 2009 to 2012 or 13, I was putting out a couple books per year in the Lunch Lady series. And then I took a step back because I wanted to work on some other creative projects. I had started getting to be known as the Lunch Lady guy, and I wanted to make sure that, I still had the space to do other books. And in the interim, like, the landscape has changed quite a bit, and publishers are now firmly behind full color graphic novels for kids. And so it's a new way to enjoy these stories because they're full color. The trim size is actually taller as well. So,
oh, nice.
Yeah, I had to actually go back to the original art files and add, like, if it was a bleed, if the art went to the edge of the page, sure, I'd have to draw more stuff. And what that also gave me was the opportunity to say, well, maybe this drawing or that drawing I was never too happy with. And I should say, like, it was early days pandemic when this was happening, and it was like comfort food for me, because these books are, they're lighthearted, they're goofy, it's like James Bond in the school cafeteria, but with the vibe of Batman 66, and I actually, I actually wrote the style of writing with, I emulated the comics I was writing when I was in 5th grade. So now's a good time to discover them if you haven't before, because they're in glorious full color. And I couldn't be more psyched with how they turned out.
And yeah, the review copy I looked at, it hits you right away. It's very, not only is it full color, it's vibrant, it's jump off the pages. And it's funny you mentioned Batman 66, and wanted to talk about kind of how that influenced your cartooning. I mean, I think I even noticed a part of the review copy. There was like some Ben-Day dots. I think there
Oh
was just,
yeah,
I
yeah,
saw
yeah.
like a
There's a
mix
lot of
of
Ben-Day
things.
dots.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's like, and that always, impresses me. How did that kind of, what was it in that culture that really molded you to bring out, some of the better aspects of the stuff you grew up on or were a fan of?
Yeah, I was weaned on Batman 66 and Saturday morning cartoons, and the Sunday newspaper comics, and the monthlies of X-Men and Spider-Man and Batman. And I even in the old original versions, there were Ben-Day dots, and everything is also purposely colored a little off center, right? So it looks like a comic that was printed in like 60s, 70s, early 80s, or maybe the production wasn't just totally right there. So
It
colors
happened
go outside
all
the
the
line.
time.
Yeah.
There's some weird
Yeah.
Beetle Bailey thing, and just like, what did they do?
Yeah. And I did that in part because with Photoshop, everything could look so polished, and I didn't want it to look too polished. I still wanted to look a little more, rough around the edges and tangible and not perfect. But that's how I became a reader, by reading those Snoopy and Calvin and Hobbes treasuries. That's how I fell in love with story. Was all and everything and anything Batman. I mean, in the summer of '89, my head exploded when I saw Batman, the Tim Burton's Batman on the screen.
Oh, sure.
I collected all of the trading cards. I had the Batman cereal. I mean, I had all the t-shirts. Like, I was just there for it. So I've always been a fan of pop culture. I was a scrawny kid who liked to draw and didn't play sports. So that was my safe space, right? Jumping into these fantastical worlds.
Yeah. No, it's like I said, great influences come out in your work, and people are really going to be. I think they'll really pick up on it and can't help to appreciate it like I did. I know the 10-year anniversary of School Hit Lunch Hero Day is coming up.
That's right.
Uh,
That's right.
do you have anything planned or prepared for that? Do you do anything online surrounding that day? And do you have any other kind of appearances or signings or something that you may be doing in conjunction with the re-release of Lunch Lady?
Yeah. Well, in the before times, I would always go to some school or for school and charity, or if there was a new book published, or even just this reissue, I would go to schools and libraries and conventions and stuff like that. So I'm not quite sure yet for School Lunch Hero Day, because that's in early May. And in these weirdo times, it's like we kind of have to just wait and see what things are going to look like as we get a little closer. But for the re-release of Lunch Lady, I have this great local independent bookstore in town.
Okay.
But it's called High Five Books, but it's a small little shop, so it still really wouldn't be safe to have a ton of people in that small space. And so, but they have these beautiful windows right at the front of the store. So I'm going to be in the window, and then kids could come up to the window, so we could be like really close to each other, maskless, talking, even though there's going to be a plane of glass between us.
Right.
And then not only will I sign the books, but I have a YouTube series where I teach kids how to draw. And a game that we often play on the YouTube show is called the Scribble Game, where one person draws a scribble, and you hand the paper over to the other person, and you look at it, you try to turn it into a drawing. So every kid will also be given, a piece of paper and a clipboard to draw a scribble, and I'll turn it into something and send it back. But also knowing that everyone is in a different comfort zone right now, I'll also be streaming it. So I'll have a few cameras set up so you can kind of feel like you're there. And then also for the fact that even if you're, in line, or maybe you want to wait in your car until it's your turn, you can still watch it on your phone, right? So I'm just trying to get real creative on how to create a meaningful and safe experience for kids.
Well, yeah, like I'm really interested in checking this out, but I mean, no offense to you, I'm not going to cross the country
No.
to make it for that day. But you're offering that opportunity for people who aren't close, who do want to be a part of that experience. So that's great, man. Yeah,
Thanks,
and
man.
speaking about your YouTube channel, I was going through all your social media handles, prepping everything for this interview, and your YouTube channel is just phenomenal. It's packed.
Thanks.
I mean, trailers, writing tips, cartooning tips, positive messages. I mean, it's just such a fun, wholesome and like inviting page, and I really encourage people to go give it a look, subscribe, follow, share, do all the YouTube things. Yeah, you'll definitely get a lot of stuff out of it. And I also hear, now I haven't had a chance to check out yet, but I also hear you have a cool podcast about the origins of comic book creating. So what's that about?
So Origin Stories is, I've wanted to make a podcast for a while now. Let me back up a little bit. Sorry if it's a long-winded answer, but my New Year's resolution in January 2020 was to do more webcasting, which sounds so, I don't know if that's prophetic or I don't know what it is, ominous. And so I created like a little corner in a basement just where I could, come in and turn the camera on and go. And so when the pandemic hit and everyone was worried about what to do with their kids, because 2 weeks was going to be a really long time for this thing. And so I said, I'll go live every day at 2 and I'll do live drawing lessons. And so then I did that for a lot longer than 2 weeks. I did it every day for 3 or 4 months. And then I continued to do it on the weekends. But I had this other itch, which was to, connect with older readers. So the YouTube show is for younger kids. And, you mentioned Hey Kiddo, and that's young adult. It's much more older skewing. And at the same time, I also missed my friends. It was summer, and that's the time where I always reconnect with my friends at comic book conventions. And so I did a little video series, but then, my New Year's resolution for 2021 was, I just got to chill out. I just got to do self-care. I just need to this is a lot. Life in general, pandemic times.
Sure.
And so I'm now in a space where okay, here's this other germ of an idea I had. I think it's going to work best as a podcast. And so Origin Stories is, me connecting with my graphic novelist pals about, how they came to be. I don't plan any questions other than start with, what was it like for you when you were a kid? And go from there. And that will lead to one thing, which will lead to another. And it's cool, right? Because a lot of them are people I've known for a while, but when you only have, a half an hour to grab a coffee between panels at a convention and you're exhausted, you don't dig deep into traumatic events from their childhood necessarily in those moments.
Yeah, it might kill the moment.
It might kill the moment. Yeah. Yeah.
That's great, man. Hey, definitely want to check that out. We'll get you all hooked up online. All the ways that you can follow Jarrett and his social media and his YouTube and his podcast, and he's all over the internet. So if you haven't found him, we got you covered. You're going to be able to bookmark all the places. You definitely want to check out more from Jarrett and what he has going on. Jarrett, thank you so much for taking the time. Everyone, check out The Lunch Lady coming Tuesday, February 22nd, to bookstores and online bookstores, retailers as well, like Amazon, Barnes and Noble.
Yeah, all of those. But I'll tell you what,
Okay.
My favorite online bookstore is called bookshop.org because it connects to indie bookshops. So whether it's an indie bookshop that you have a connection with or not, they get an earmark of that money. So it's like the speed and ease of ordering online, but with you can go to sleep at night being like, I just helped a person, like a real person.
That's really great to support indie shops like that, because the big
Yeah.
bookstore chains, I mean, nothing against them, and sometimes that's all you have,
Sometimes it's all you
depending on where
have.
you're
Yeah,
located.
yeah,
But
yeah.
like, I lived downtown Seattle, and there was this great old timey indie run bookstore. The lady running it probably read every single book in there, and it had stairwells, and it was just a nice experience. And it was so
Yeah, yeah,
it was just it heralded back to a different time when something like that was really just enjoyed and appreciated, rather than
yeah, yeah.
my book and how quick can I get it here to me. um,
Yeah, yeah.
but definitely, we'll definitely hook up the link for bookshop.org. So Tuesday, February 22nd, the lunch lady. Look for it in fine bookstores everywhere. Jarrett, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. And everyone, go check out what's going on with JJK.
Thanks for having me, Jason. I appreciate it.
Hey, my pleasure, man.